The last of the great houses we're introduced to in the series is House Martell. Their sigil is a burning red sun with a golden spear through it, and their words are Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. 1,000 years ago, when the Rhoynar migrated to Dorne, they were led by a legendary warrior queen named Nymeria. Wanting to establish a strong rulership, Nymeria took the Andal Mors Martell as her husband for his physical prowess, and together they conquered Dorne and established the Martell monarchy. They decided to go with the traditional Rhoynar titles of prince and princess, as opposed to king and queen. Now, we all know that Aegon I came 300 years ago and conquered the Seven Kingdoms, right? Well, here's where it gets interesting. After Aegon had conquered everything from the Wall to the Reach, he set his sights on Dorne. He sent his sister Rhaenys in with an army, thinking that the scarcely populated Dorne would be his easiest victory so far, but they weren't met in battle when they first got there. You see, the Dornishmen had heard all about the Targaryens and knew that they could never beat them by force, so instead they resorted to nightly ambushes while the soldiers slept, and a variety of other hit-and-run tactics to slowly but surely chip away at the Targaryen army. At long last, the Targaryens had finally found themselves in a position that even their dragons wouldn't be able to help them out of. Livid with the situation, Rhaenys hopped on her dragon and flew to Sunspear to confront Princess Moriah Martell, an old blind woman who told Rhaenys that the Targaryens weren't wanted here in Dorne. Rhaenys used the Targaryen motto as a threat, saying that she would return with fire and blood if she didn't accept Aegon's new rule. Moriah in turn replied with her own family words of Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. Rhaenys immediately fled Dorne, shocked at the realization that the Martell family motto was way cooler than hers. Okay, that obviously wasn't the case, but Aegon and his sisters did decide that Dorne wasn't worth the bloodshed for the small amount of resources that they would get out of it. So Dorne remained its own separate kingdom, free from Aegon, the only region to remain unconquered where so many others had been. Eventually they did become part of the Seven Kingdoms, but only on their own terms. 100 years ago, they married into the royal Targaryen bloodline, and finally agreed to merge, although they did keep their royal titles of Prince and Princess of Dorne, even if they didn't actually mean anything anymore. More recently, the Martells married into the Targaryen family again when Elia Martell married Rhaegar Targaryen, and together they had 2 children, Rhaenys and Aegon. Ironically named after the 2 people that had tried to conquer Dorne all those years ago. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say that that was his idea, not hers. But anyways, Rhaegar was killed at the Trident during Robert's Rebellion, and during the sack of King's Landing, Tywin Lannister sent in Gregor Clegane to kill Rhaegar's wife and heirs. Gregor and his men killed both of Elia's children right in front of her, before raping and killing Elia herself. Pretty understandably, Elia's 2 brothers Doran and Oberyn Martell were enraged when they caught wind of this. Oberyn wanted to strike while the iron was hot and declare the Martells for Viserys Targaryen in defiance of the new Lannister queen and her father. However, Doran refused, stating that their forces weren't strong enough to start a war against the Lannisters. Doran signed a peace treaty, but never forgot what the Lannisters and Ser Gregor had done. They withdrew most of their trade deals from the rest of the realm, and instead chose to deal more with the free cities. My favorite Martell is probably Oberyn the Red Viper, but I love Doran as well, and the two make a great contrast to each other. My least favorite would have to be Quentyn, but it's not really through any fault of his as a character. I'll talk about why that is in the spoilers, and speaking of which, those are coming at you in 3, 2, 1. Oberyn finally gets to face his sister's murderer when he fights Gregor Clegane in single combat as Tyrion's champion. He dies when Gregor grabs him and smashes his face in, but is able to poison Gregor with his spear beforehand, leaving him to die a slow, agonizing death. Doran and his daughter Arianne hatch a plan to try and find out the true identity of Aegon VI. Quentyn goes on a quest to court Daenerys, but is rejected and goes into her dragon pit alone to try and tame a dragon. He almost succeeds, but is burnt to death by Rhaegal and the dragons are released. Which begs the question, why have this guy as a point of view character in A Dance with Dragons? I mean, I get what happened when he got there was important, and now the rest of the Martells are gonna have some tough decisions to make, but why spend 4 chapters with him on his journey to get there? And if you've read A Dance with Dragons, what are your guys' thoughts about it? Anyways, this episode was going to be the last in the series, but by popular demand, I'm gonna be doing a Night's Watch and the Land of Always Winter videos at some point. But don't worry, this won't at all be the end of content. I'm gonna be uploading a vlog review every week for each of the new episodes in the upcoming season, as well as more character and story analysis videos, more top 10 lists, a new Brawl series pitting characters against each other, and tons more. We've only just gotten started, guys, so don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss anything. I'm Danzy, and I'll see you soon.